Uh, Hello. I'm Sam. I'm going to be the coach for tonight. I guess we're going to start off with a track walk, essentially a track guide. So you have the start finish straight. This is not the F1 start finish straight. This is the old one. So essentially, you want to set yourself up here on the left for turn one. Your braking marker is going to be either the 50 board or you see that Fanatec podium sign on the left, the one that just changed to Fanatec. Those are going to be your brake markers for turn one. And essentially, this one is just a really short blip of the brake. And then you want to coast it in a little bit, put it over this curb, but you don't want to go too far because you see there, it'll bounce your car, these little red strips. You don't want to go more than this. And on the exit, you want to go no wider than your two inside wheels on this black and white curb.
Sorry, so track limits is black and white, not the white line?
Yes, black and white. The black and white curbs, not the white line. It's only for the two British GT tracks that are the white line, specifically Centerton and Oulton Park. And now coming up to Maggots and Beckets, I would say this is probably the most difficult section of the track. So you wanted to turn at that entry curb. You want to go over to this apex curb right here. Use as much of it as you can without going onto the red stuff that you just saw. And there are two ways of taking this. You could either coast it in fifth, lift in fifth, or you shift down into fourth and then hammer the throttle as you hit the apex. And you want to be towards the middle of the track as you come out, so around here. And then you brake here, and you shift down into fourth or third, depending on how you like it. Ride this curb. And here, I also blip the brake a little bit to get the car turned in, so my brake marker is the start of that black and white curb on the right. And you brake, and then you turn the car in. You can use this green stuff, but it is quite bumpy, so just be careful of that. Ride this curb. And power on out. Use all this curb on the left as well. And once again, use all the track. The usual. Coming up to Stowe. Pretty fast corner. You take this one in third gear. Your brake marker is the start of this curb on the left. You can trail it in a little bit, but most of the time, at least for me, I will coast through it. Try to use this black and white curb here on the inside, and then try and get on the power as early as possible. And once again, track limit, not the white line. What was that? So the track limit is, once again, this black and white curb. You can run it this wide without invalidating it. And try and take a short line going into the braking zone of this chicane right here. And this one, my brake marker is the start of this black and white curb. So around here, I'll start braking. I'll trail it in. This is about my turn-in point right here. I'll trail it in towards the apex. I take this one in second gear, but some cars could get away with it in first gear. So use that without hitting the sausage. You can run this much without invalidating because, once again, the track limits are the black and white curves. But do be careful. The grass will upset the car sometimes. And do not lose traction on the way out because even though this is not a straight, this is a flat-out section. So you want to keep as much traction as you can, get most speed as you can. So run that wide. Run this close. Don't hit the sausage there. And now we're on the F1 straight. Now for F1 turn 1, this one you don't have to brake. You either shift down into fourth or you just completely lift in fifth. But for the Porsche, you actually don't completely lift. So my marker actually is around the start of this green stuff. This is where I either shift down into fourth or lift. Then I take this curb. You don't want to go too much because it will bounce you around sometimes, so you want to take about this much. Run it wide. Try not to go too wide, like as in hit the curb on the exit there. You want to keep it about this much so you have a better line through this left-hander. And obviously use the curb here, as much space. And keep it towards the left to line yourself up for this hairpin. So the braking mark for this one is start of this curb. This is what I use. And then you want to trail it in here, because if you let go of the brake too early, you're not going to have a good turn in to get a good line off of this corner. And then here, this other hairpin, I would say my braking marker is about the start of this curb on the right, but that will also vary. And you can also take a variety of different lines to this one. You can take one that's really wide, as in you can go out this wide, or probably during the race, you could probably put the car more towards the middle so that somebody doesn't dive towards you. And you want to coast it in or trail brake it, and then be patient on the throttle here. I see a lot of people losing time at this particular corner because they don't get the car turned in properly, and they get on the throttle too early, which means they wash out on the exit. They're gonna have to lift, or they slide out. So do be patient on the throttle until you hit the apex. So run the car this wide. Hit this curb. Be careful of this curb because that might get you a pressure loss. So you don't want to take too much of that green stuff. You can run it. You can run this curb this wide without losing the validation of it. And now for the final sector of the track. This one, Brooklands. I go wide on this curve right here to widen the entry. So you want to use this much. And my braking marker is this sign. And honestly, I haven't found a concrete braking marker yet, so I just pray that that marker doesn't get taken out. You want to trail brake it, but then at some point I will let go completely and I'll just coast. And you can take about this much curb without invalidating, but it is kind of slippery, so be careful. And this second to last corner, you can take two different lines depending on how you took the earlier corner. So if you wash out wide, you're gonna end up on this black and white curb. Blip the brake here, and you want to hit a double apex on this one. So you're gonna want to wash out wide and then bring it back in for a second apex towards here. And you can run this one, this exit curb this wide, so you can maintain as much speed as you can.
Sorry, can I ask a question on that last corner?
Yep.
So the hairpin there. I mean, I've seen people take different lines where they kind of U it, where they run all the way around the curve and kind of hug it. And I've seen people more like you did, where they more V double apex. Do you have a view on type of car, or which one's better under which circumstances?
I would say if you're in a mid-engine car, they tend to have slightly better acceleration because they have the weight on the rear wheels. You could probably go for the double apex, but if you're in a front-engine car, you're gonna want to try and keep your speed, so you can try hugging that.
Okay, thanks.
And you can also either take second or first, but I usually take second for that final one. And this very final corner, you can try and save a bit of time by going this much without invalidating. Keep your left wheels on this curb. And once again, to save just a tiny bit of time, don't wash out wide until you start your next lap. And I'm going to return to garage, get some more fresh tires, and I'm going to do a hot lap.
While you're on your outlap, can you sort of point out when you start getting on throttle for some of the slow corners?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Oh, you don't want to do that. That's one thing.
I can say I've done that before.
It's gotten me out too. You saw there. So I turned about here at the start of that curve, hit this apex, again on the throttle, brake, shift down to third or fourth, ride this curb, a blip of the brake, and power. You really just have to look at Maggots and Beckets not as individual corners, but as a unit of corners. So you really want to sacrifice the entry or exits of some of those corners for better exits on the final two.
Oh, just to point out, for those who are in the server, you can probably spectate them live in the game too. Should have better quality than the stream. Sam does have his telemetry input, which is very nice on the stream.
That one's a lot better, and it's valid. And those are a couple of hot laps.
Very nice. I guess
Okay.
any questions?
So for turn 6, is there a reason you don't upshift to 6th there? Just keep it in 5th?
It might depend on the car, but at least for the Audi has a really wide rev range, so I can rev it out all the way to 8,400 RPM and not lose any speed.
Got it. Wondering
But
if the lap was any similar.
yeah. I could probably do the same in something like the Lamborghini. I know the Porsche doesn't shift into 5th there. Actually, no. The Porsche does shift into 6th there. But some cars, the Lambo, some of the more naturally aspirated cars like the AMG, you probably don't have to shift into 6th there.
The Noob question. What is there any risk, or what is the risk to get in some sort of a puncture if you run a lot of curb the whole time?
Well, it really depends on what kind of curb that you get. Like say this one at turn one, if you ride that red strip right there, you could get a pressure loss, but I haven't really gotten a puncture anywhere. This one at the start of Maggots and Beckets will get you a puncture or a pressure loss at the very least if you hit it too hard. F1 turn one, I haven't really had any negative experiences with it, but you just have to be careful sometimes. This one, you see, also has the green stuff and the red strips.
Yep.
And this one as well, you don't want to dip it into the grass because the curb is elevated from the grass. It's minuscule, but it will make a difference.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I had a question on I'm not sure if it's turn 11. It's the fast right-hander where you just kind of lift off.
That should be F1 turn one, isn't it?
Yeah, F1 turn 1, yeah. So you kept it in 5th there. So sometimes I shift down to 4th. Is this also car dependent, or is there a faster way?
I feel like it's not necessarily car dependent, but it's personal preference. I believe that out of the CDA lap for the Audi does shift into 4th, but I feel more comfortable keeping it in 5th.
Okay, thanks.
Do you know anything about pit entrance, like brake?
Pit entry. Oh yeah, interesting. So obviously here's the pit entrance. Honestly, I haven't really had any time to practice the pit entrance here, so I'm gonna have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to catch you off guard.
All good. I'm still learning too.
Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I
Oh.
had one last one. Go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for it.
No, I had one last question. It's this I can't remember which turns they are, but it's a sequence, kind of that like tight sequence after F1 turn one.
The 2 hairpins.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about it?
So in terms of like, the way that you take that, I mean, do you stay more to the right on that, kind of entry to this corner that you're looking at right there? It's like, yeah, I don't know which turn that is, but like right there, I mean, you stay kind of more right after you go through, you kind of pull to the right there before you kind of take that left-hander. Like what, I didn't totally understand the line through that.
So once you're going through F1 turn one, obviously you want to have a wide entry, the classic
Yeah.
line stuff. But here, this one, you can take a bit of a narrower line because it is wide enough for you to take it flat out.
Mhm.
So you want to do that, and then you want to immediately try and keep the car towards the left side of the middle, towards the left side of the rubber here. If you can see the rubber marks, you want to do it towards the left. Keep your car towards the left side, as that car just did, left side, and then spot this as your braking marker, the start of that black and white curb.
Okay, and then as you go through that turn, are you staying more right, to here, or do you take it more kind of in the center?
I will wash wide onto this curb, but I will most likely keep it in the center.
Got it. Okay. Because I've seen some stuff online where it's like people will take that turn and they'll like stay in the middle as they come out of that turn. They won't even wash out at all. So it's curious.
Yeah, in the race, you could probably take a more of a defensive line by staying in the middle because you do have people following you. But in qualifying, you want to try and extract as much time as you can, so you want to square up those lines by taking wider entries.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
I got a general question, Sam.
All right, shoot it.
So, based on the telemetry, but so it seems you basically hit like the 100% break point like initially and drop off to like 90% right after. I guess that's to prevent ABS kicking in. I think when I watch mine, I'm at like 100% for a little while before it drops off.
Actually, I feel like that's more of a side effect of the mod that I did in my brake, because I put a little rubber stop inside it. So I feel like that's it. Because I haven't experienced that until I put the brake mod in.
I see.
But I can't say it's made me a bit more consistent at braking and trail braking in general. So
Cool.
I have a question about turn one.
alrighty.
So you said it was short on the brakes. How long do you stay on the brakes? And then when do you get back on the power?
Okay, the back on the power is a lot easier. I usually spot this first or second red strip. Those are usually my throttle indicators. But I'm gonna have to look at the replay for the break point there.
Yeah, maybe the turn-in point too. Actually, I was kind of curious about since we're going down this turn. Oh, you just turn in right away.
Because what I feel throughout this corner is I turn in a little bit right before I brake, but then my car is also still rotating as the brake is being applied. That's why I straightened up the wheel there, because I felt the car going loose. And there's just about the first red strip. That's when I pretty much just hammered the throttle.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure I speak for the group when I say that was excellent. Thank you, Sam.
No problem. You are all welcome. And also, one thing I want to note with the Division 2 and 3 drivers, one thing I've noticed about you guys' steering and throttle inputs are that you guys keep a lot of steering even after you've applied the throttle. You want to unwind as you're applying the throttle. You want to unwind your steering as you're applying the throttle. Because two things will happen if you do that. You're gonna either oversteer or understeer. If you're gonna understeer, then you're just gonna go wide, and obviously oversteering, you're gonna spin out because you kept that steering angle. Just one thing I want to point out.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good tip. As you open up the steering wheel, you'll gain better traction too, and better exit speed.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have the TC maybe higher up than you at 1, so we don't have these behavior of the car. Because even if I turn the wheel and I apply full throttle, the car it's still stable. But definitely, if you go lower on the TC, yeah, that should happen.
There's also a compromise to be made with the TC, because if you run a higher TC, you will lose a bit of exit speed going out of the slower corners because the TC kind of bogs you down. But
Yeah.
it's also very car dependent. Like say the AMG, it has that really smooth TC if you set it up to like 6, but it's also car dependent.
Oh yeah, and Sam is running on a Logitech G920 on a laptop, so it's definitely not the gear; it's talent.
Shush, Dehi.
All right,
Any other
we'll
final
sort of
things?
break. Yeah, any last questions? If not, we'll then break up into sort of a one-on-one or one-on-two sessions where you can get some more personal attention.